والعاقبة للمتقين ولا عدوان إلا على الظالمين وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له الملك الحق المبين وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله سيد ولد آدم أجمعين صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه الطيبين الطاهرين وسلم تسليما كثيرا أما بعد. As we continue the date of Sunday, August the 26th, which is 2018, in accordance with the Gregorian calendar, which coincides with the 14th day of the Hijjah, which is 1439 after the Hijrah of Mustafa alayhi salatu wassalam. As we continue in Buloogh Al-Maraam, in the chapter of Kafa'ah, a chapter which is originally a chapter in a chapter, as we've been covering the affair of marriage, what they call Kitab al-Nikah. And we finished the majority of the chapter. What is left is only what we've been actually studying for the past couple of weeks in regards to what they call al-Kafa'a wal-Khiyar. Kafa'a wal-Khiyar, of adequacy and alternative. Adequacy and alternative. But as we'll, inshallah, we'll discuss, and I think after we conclude this chapter, I think we might continue. We might continue in Kitab al-Nikah, in the chapter, for example, Kitab al-Sadaq, Kitab of the book, the chapter of dowry, the dowry for a woman, the dowry. I keep saying dowry of the woman. And also, likewise, what they call Bab al-Walima. We might continue that if there's a need. The chapters that comes after it, which is all, like we said, in regards to what was pertaining to marriage. And like I said, there's not that many pages left in the chapter at all. It's real short. It's not that many ahadith. So we almost completed the whole chapter. So as we return back to Kitab al-Nikah, or the chapter of Bab al-Kafa'a wal-Khiyar, the chapter of adequacy and alternative. Alhamdulillah. Yahdikum Allah yuslihu ba'alakum. As we continue in the chapter, and we stopped at the point of talking about the hadith of Barira, and what took place between her and her husband, Ughith, radiyallahu anhuma. And we talked about, in refutation against, well, not actually a refutation, but if you look inside of your books, the chapter where it says about the hadith of Ibn Umar, I want to go backtrack just a little bit, sisters, where it says, Al-Arab ba'atuhum akfa'u ba'ud, wal-mawali ba'atuhum akfa'u ba'ud. He said that the Arabs, they are adequate for one another. And likewise, the free slaves, or the non-Arab, because it can mean both, they are adequate for one another, except the one who's a ha'ik, and that's a type of job, or it's a type of occupation which is considered lowly, or it was considered lowly, or a hajjam, a person that cups people. It's another type of occupation. We said that this hadith, the isnad of it is weak, and also Abu Hatim al-Razi, the great imam, also likewise said that the matan of the hadith has in it nakara. That is also, the matan is not sound. It's not sound as far as in its meaning. Why? He says it has nakara. What is nakara? Meaning it has in it, the actual matan is in opposition to the authentic ahadith. The actual matan, or the text of this hadith, the text of this narration, meaning the wording. He says it's in opposition to what? What is authentic, what has been affirmed and established, and the other authentic narrations of the Prophet ﷺ. And from those narrations, like we just said, we mentioned a couple of them. For example, the hadith of Barira, of what took place with Barira, right everyone? We talked about that last week. What took place between her husband and between her and her husband. So Barira, as we talked about, and that tremendous long hadith, what did we say everyone? That hadith is also considered from the asl of the chapter of Bay' and conditions that are stipulated inside of a lot of contracts, not just sale transactions, but also marriage contracts and a lot of different types of contracts that's in the religion. We said it's based upon that hadith of Barira, which is a tremendous hadith. Hadith of Barira is a tremendous hadith. So it says about, just to conclude or be a little bit more concise what we're about to mention. Quickly, we mentioned it said what happened with Barira is that what everyone? That she was a concubine, she was a slave. She was a slave. And she had wrote and performed that type of mu'amala or that transaction to release herself, which is called mukataba. Mukataba. So she can now get her or purchase her liberation or for her to be freed. Let me go back here. Here it is right here. I'm going to go back a little bit. Here it is. No, that's not it. Where is this? I just had it. No, this. Oh, it's before it. No, it's after it. Yes, after it. I already had it on the page and I moved it. Fine. It says that, as you notice in your books, if you go and look in the chapter, it says on the authority of Aisha, right everyone? It says that Barira was given a choice for her husband when she was freed, right everyone? It says in your books. And notice that Ibn Hajar, Al-Hafidh, the great Imam, Al-Hafidh Ibn Hajar said that the hadith is what? It's agreed upon. It's in Bukhari and Muslim. He said the hadith is what? Is long. Then notice in the narration it says, which is in Muslim, what everyone? It says, أَنَّ زَوْجَهَا كَانَ عَبْدًا, that her husband was a what? Likewise, he was a what? He was a slave. In another narration it says that it was hur, that he was freed, he was liberated. However, Al-Hafidh Ibn Hajar said that what? The first one that we established, that's athbat, meaning that's what's been affirmed. That's what's correct. So, and also one narration says, وَصَحَّ عند ابن عباس عند البخاري أنه كان عبدا, which has also been authenticated upon Ibn Abbas, with Al-Bukhari. He said that truly he was a what? He was a slave, right everyone? طيب. So we said that Barira was a slave. And she had bought and purchased herself from the family where she was under their supervision. She was under their supervision. And she had performed that transaction, which is called mukataba, which is a firm or a matter that's been established in the book of Allah. Where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala even says it clearly in his book, فَكَاتِبُوهُنْ إِنْ عَلِمْتَ فِيهِمْ وَكَاتِبُوهُمْ إِنْ عَلِمْتَ فِيهِمْ خَيْرًا فَكَاتِبُوهُمْ, meaning mukataba, meaning from those slaves. He says, if you know that they are good and you see from them good, he says to perform that transaction with them. So it was upon Barira, as we talked about, تسع أواق من الفضة الأوقية كم درهما. Basically, just to sum it up, 40 درهم تسعون أو عفوا 40 درهما تسع في 40 ب360 درهما. So basically, just to sum it up, Barira performed that transaction called mukataba with 360 dirhams. That was the value. 360 dirhams. So she purchased herself from those who was under their supervision, who owned her. By what? 360 dirhams. So when she came to Aisha radiallahu anha to seek her help, seek from her aid, Aisha said, if you want, إن أحب أهلك أن أعد لهم هذه الدراهم وأنقذها لهم ويكون ولاؤك لي فعلت. To the said in the narration of Barira. He says, if your family wants, I will prepare for them the dirhams, meaning I'll pay it. Meaning basically, I'll put it up for you. I'll front it for you. I'll give it to him. I'll front it for him. I'll front it for you. I'll front the money. He says, I'll make it nuqud. I'll make it money. I give it to them. However, he says, of course we said that the wala, as we said last week, what did the wala mean? Has to be for me. Meaning that I inherit all the different benefits that comes along with it. And from that is what, everyone? What did we say last week? The inheritance. The inheritance. The wala. The wala has to be for me. Meaning for the one who what? Who fronted the money and purchased. Did we say that last week? Was everybody with me or they forgot? طيب. From Barira went to her family and informed her. However, she informed Aisha that they gave or made an exception. The Prophet ﷺ was sitting there. He was listening. Or the Prophet ﷺ had, when Barira came, and the Prophet ﷺ was present. فَقَالَ لَهَا النَّبِيُّ صلى الله عليه وسلم. So he said basically they gave a stipulation that which made the Messenger of Allah say something. They said they'll do it on the terms that if you purchase, the wala will still have to be for them, not for you, Aisha. So the Prophet ﷺ heard this. And he said, and the Prophet ﷺ, of course, was one from his duty was to what? To establish the truth and warn against what is displeasing to Allah was considered falsehood. So the Messenger of Allah said this, خُذِيهَا وَاشْتَرِطِي لَهُمُ الْوَلَاءِ فَإِنَّمَا الْوَلَاءُ لِمَنْ أَعْتَقْ. He says, take her, meaning Barira, and make the stipulation to those who was under her, was over on top of her, or basically in charge of her. Say to them that you are the one that's supposed to have the wala, meaning that you own the rights of the what? Of the inheritance, that it goes on to the one who set her free. So he says, say that to them. Verily the wala belongs to the person who freed. Is it clear what I'm saying? Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? So it says, وَإِنِ اشْتَرَطُوا أَنَ الْوَلَاءَ لَهُمْ فَالْوَلَاءَ لَكِ. If they make the stipulation that the wala is for them, no, the wala is for you, because you're the one that freed her. فَاشْتَرَتْهَا عَائِشَةُ وَاشْتَرَطَتْ لَهُمُ الْوَلَاءَ. So Aisha purchased her, and they also made the stipulations for them that she now belongs to her the right. So what have you. So the Prophet ﷺ, as we know, had gave and clarified that, or stood and gave that clarification, that admonishment. He said, وَمَا بَالُ أَقْوَامِ يَشْتَرِطُونَ شُرُوطًا لَيْسَتْ فِي كِتَابِ اللَّهِ كُلُّ شَرْطٍ لَيْسَ فِي كِتَابِ اللَّهِ فَهُوَ بَاطِلٌ وَإِنْ كَانَ مِئَةَ شَرْطٍ قضاء الله أوثق عفوا قضاء الله أحق وشرطه أوثق إنما الولاء لمن أعتق. He says in the narration, the Prophet ﷺ, when he clarified, he said, what's wrong with the people that they make conditions or stipulate conditions that's not in the book of Allah? Every condition that's not in the book of Allah for verily is false. It's rejected. Even if it's 100 conditions. He said, for the qada Allah ahaq, what Allah has preordained and has set is more deserving of being fulfilled, of course. And the conditions of Allah is othaq, is more binding. He says, verily wala belongs to the one who freed the slave, or freed the one. He says, فَلَمَّا عُتِقَتْ. So when she was freed and liberated, the Prophet ﷺ gave her the choice to now, as we talked about, to stay with her husband. All this hadith, this benefit right here, everyone, we know this is just side benefit. That has nothing to do with what we're talking about now. So everyone's probably saying, why are you mentioning this? I'm mentioning this because this is from the most greatest of or special ahadith in these tremendous chapters of talking about conditions that are rejected in contracts that might cause harm to a person. So they use this hadith. This is from the ahadith. However, that's not the point of why we're mentioning it. The point of why we're mentioning it is when basically a Barira attained her what? Her freedom, right, everyone? And we talked about last week that when Barira radiallahu anha, we know they were at the same level. Before she was free, she was at the same level of her what? Of her husband. Right? When she became free, she became what? Now it was considered Islam, or as far as what is legislated, she's higher. So the Prophet ﷺ gave her the choice. He didn't nullify the marriage. He gave her the choice. So we know in the hadith that Mughith started crying. because he loved her. He didn't want to leave her. What's so crazy is in the hadith, it's funny but it's sad at the same time. She loved him, but she hated his guts. Yeah, she couldn't stand him. She couldn't stand. That happens. I mean, this person, people looking at me. This happens. You have for somebody that loves you, and then you have a person that's like, man, I can't stand him. That happens. It does happen in relationships. It's human beings. So she said he kept out to the point where it says Mughith was even following her in the marketplaces crying. Following her in the marketplaces. Mughith, radiallahu anhu. We also have the hadith of what happened with the khula', the first khula' in Islam. What did she say about him? She said that everything I love about him is religion, except the fact that I just can't stand to look at him. She wasn't attracted to him. And she said, I detest kufr in Islam, meaning of me falling into something of disobedience to Allah and His Messenger by me staying with him. That's in another narration, not of this one, but another sahabiyah. Of the first khula' in Islam. The first khula'. She said to him to the point where she couldn't stand to even look at him. And I think one narration, if I remember, is that she wanted to spit on him, something like that. That's how disgusted she was to look at him. She said there's nothing else wrong with him. His religion, everything was intact. But she just wasn't attracted. Which is to show people are what? Human beings. That's a human being. I mean, people, you can't control what Allah has instilled in the heart to be emotionally or inclined emotionally to one person besides the next. Right, everyone? Everybody's different. طيب. So then it says that Mughith was following her in the markets, crying. Crying and said, I want to stay with you. I want to remain with you. I want the marriage, let's work it out. So we know Barira went to the Prophet ﷺ. Rather Mughith went to the Prophet ﷺ. Mughith went to the Prophet ﷺ and basically asking the Messenger of Allah to assist him. So notice, like we talked about last week, and this is what we mentioned. And rather, there's a poetry that just talks about the story that Shaykh Uthaymeen even mentioned. Listen to this. He said, وَمِن نَكَدِ الدُّنْيَا عَلَى الْحُرِّ أَنْ يَرَى عَدُوًّا لَهُ مَا مِنْ صَدِيقَتِهِ بُدُّ. He says in the poetry. He said, وَمِن نَكَدِ الدُّنْيا عَلَى الْحُرِّ أَنْ يَرَى عَدُوًّا لَهُ مَا مِنْ صَدِيقَتِهِ وَمَا مِنْ صَدَاقَتِهِ بُدُّ. He says in the poetry. This is how Barira felt towards Mughith. He gives in the poetry, she said, from the worst affairs of dunya is that a person who's freed, that they see an enemy, that they have to have some type of closeness or relationship with them. Meaning that basically she couldn't what? She didn't like him. Didn't like him at all. She wanted to be out in the relationship. I'm going. I want to be out. So, Mughith went to the Prophet ﷺ asking for his assistance. So the Prophet ﷺ didn't say, and this is to show these type of narrations, like we talked about before, builds our love for the Prophet ﷺ, to show how much of a generous and how much of a humble individual, how much of a beautiful person he was, ﷺ. That he wasn't oppressive, or he didn't say, don't you see that I'm the messenger of Allah? You see how busy I got to care for all the affairs of the ummah? I'm busy. The Prophet ﷺ didn't do that. He took time out for him. He said, okay, I'll assist you, no problem. Went to Barira. Barira said, don't you see Mughith crying? Like, take into consideration his feelings. He's crying. He loves you. So Barira said, you commanded me, O Messenger of Allah, to go back to him? She said, one narration that says, La, ana bal ushir. One narration said, no, I'm just giving advice. I'm just trying to sort it out. That's it. There's no command. I'm not commanding you to be with him another. Another narration says, innama ana ashfa'. Verily, I'm just in the settlement, just a middle person, just trying to sort it out. That's all. So Barira said upon that, Idan, he says, if that's the case, I want to be out. I'm done. If that's the case, I want to be out. So Mughith, like we said, based upon that, the Prophet ﷺ, this is the reason why we put the hadith in the chapter. Why Al-Hafidh ibn Hajar put it here in Buloogh Al-Maraam, was because what, everyone? Because the Prophet ﷺ gave her the choice. Either you could continue the marriage with him, or it could be what? Annulled. Or it could be what? It could be annulled. Why? Because she became higher than him. As far as in that aspect of what? Of liberation and him still being a what, everyone? Still being a slave. طيب, there's a side benefit. Oh man, I want to do. We could mention that. There's a side benefit that comes to Sahih Muslim there's a benefit that's extracted from this particular narration. It says, أن زوجها, as we know, مغيث was a abd. وهذه رواية أخرى كان حرا. As we know, what is the authentic narration is that he was a abd. He was a slave. There was one narration that is shadh. You'll find that Ahl Ilm say that particular wording is shadh, meaning it's rejected because it's extremely weird. Because it opposes what has been established and authentically reported by the narrators who are more precise and accurate in their narrations. That they said that Mughith was freed, and he wasn't a slave. We said that narration is what? Is what they call shadh. Shadh bidhal. Bidhal, shadh. It means it's extremely weird because it opposes the narrations of those who have more precision and those who are considered mountains of knowledge who narrated this narration with precision and accuracy, who are the A'immatul Athbat. Those ulama who are more accurate in their memory and their precision of narrations. That particular narration that said that he was free is weird. He wasn't free. He was still what? He still was an abd. But he knows it's in your book, because you didn't bring your book. But if you didn't bring your book, next time you know what I'm talking about. But however, there's a narration, if you look at Buloogh Al-Maraam, what does it say, everyone? That he was a what? For people who brought their book, that he was a what? There is a narration that says what? That he was freed. But we said that narration is what? It's weird. We said that it's basically weak. It has a severe weakness. Because shudhuv in the hadith is a severe weakness. It's not a light weakness. Because we know there's different types of weaknesses in the chain of narration. You have some chains that have a light weakness, meaning that another narration could come and support it and raise its level. Then you have narrations that have a severe weakness. And the type of severe weaknesses is what they call shudhuv, extremely weird, where it goes against either those narrators that are more strong in their precision and accuracy, and also they're more in number of those who narrated this particular authentic narration. This narration came and went against and opposed those what? Those authentic ones. Of those narrators who authentically reported it with accuracy and precision. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? Is it clear what I'm saying so far? Jayyid. طيب. So, what is correct is to say that he was an abd. ومن ثم اختلف العلماء من أجل اختلاف هذه الرواية. We already established that. We ain't got to talk about that. على قولين لأهل. It's time already? Wow. الله أكبر الله أكبر تذكير واضح أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله ولا قوة ولا قوة هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آتي محمد وسيد الفضيلة وبعث مقام محمود. Is everyone a little hot in here? Is it me or is it hot? Hold on for 1 second. yourselves. You see, I'm hype, right? طيب, bismillah. I turned it up a little bit. I turned it down. It wasn't on. It was kind of set low. Anyway, طيب, based upon what we mentioned, it says اختلف العلماء. Did it come on? Did y'all hear something come on? Did it come on? Okay. طيب, what we just established is what, everyone? That if the abd, or the one who's a slave, now let's just say the female, she was freed or liberated, she became, of course we know it's established that she has the choice. As far as the affair we just discussed is clear. She's freed, then she became a little higher level than him, because now she's freed. So when she became higher level, now it coincides with what we're discussing here in the chapter. The chapter is called what, everyone? It's called adequacy and what? Choice, alternative, right? So now that applies to what we're discussing now, which shows that now she has the choice. So before that, she didn't, right? Now, because she was liberated or free, she now has a what? She has a choice now to either stay with him or what? Or divorce, or choose fasakh, to basically dissolve or annul the contract. طيب, that's an affair of course we know, an example we just gave in this hadith. Now we're going to give another example. Let's just say she was freed and she was not under somebody. Let's reverse it. Let's reverse it now. Say that Mughith, let's just say he was free. For example, what would be the hukum now? Does the hukums change? Is it now permissible for, let's just say, of course she was free under a man that was what? Was a slave, right? Like, what if she was free and she was under a man that was free? Similar to her, let's just say. What do we say? Now it kind of, we get a little bit more detail. Now we're going to go on the other side. Now let's establish before we talk about this and I stop, that it's permissible, right? For the woman to, of course, to be with him or to marry him. However, with the condition on the man's side, now there's certain conditions. There's an ayat which is a Surah An-Nisa, ayat number 25. Surah An-Nisa, ayat number 25. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put conditions on a man. On a man. That if he wants to marry a woman that was a slave, of course, or a woman that's a slave, of course, or own a woman that's a slave, listen to what it says. Before let's just say the riq, or jihad, if there was a firmly established was right now. Because that's the only reason why slavery came as a result of war and things like that. Legislated. Not innovated. طيب. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Surah An-Nisa, if you look in it, He said, وَمَنْ لَمْ يَسْتَطِعْ مِنْكُمْ طَوْلًا أَنْ يَنْكِحَ الْمُؤْمِنَاتِ الْمُحْصَنَاتِ الْمُؤْمِنَاتِ فَمِمَّا مَلَكَتْ أَيْمَانُكُمْ مِنْ فَتَيَاتِكُمُ الْمُؤْمِنَاتِ. Listen to this. He says, whoever is not amongst you who cannot pay basically the dowry or whatever, they can't afford it, meaning that they're less fortunate, they don't have as much money. He says that they marry. If that's the case, he said, then let them marry the muhsanat al-mu'minat. He says, from what their right hand possesses. From the believing females. So notice in the ayah, Surah An-Nisa, Allah is saying that it is permissible to marry a right hand what? A woman who's considered a slave. It's permissible to marry. So the man who's free could marry a woman as what? Exactly. طيب. Just hold on to that. However, Allah is making stipulations upon the man. So number one, he makes this first part of the ayah, which is Surah An-Nisa, makes first one condition. Number one, starting off number one, is that he can't pay the dowry for a woman that's freed. That's number one. Then Allah mentions another condition in the ayah. Listen to this. وَاللَّهُ أَعْلَمُ بِإِيمَانِكُمْ بَعْضُكُمْ مِنْ بَعْضٍ فَانْكِحُوهُنَّ بِإِذْنِ أَهْلِهِنَّ وَآتُوهُنَّ أُجُورَهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ مُحْصَنَاتٍ غَيْرَ مُسَافِحَاتٍ وَلَا مُتَّخِذَاتِ أَخْدَانٍ. So number one, Allah mentions another condition upon the man, if he's a free man, of course, that she has to believe, if she is a female slave, of course, notice that she has to be also a believing woman. She cannot be for woman of the book either, in this particular instance. Why? Because you're talking about a woman who's a what? A slave right now in this ayah, right? Because she's an amma. She's an amma. Amma meaning a slave. As we know, of course, I'm sure the sisters know the word ammatullah, right, everyone? Amma, ammatullah. Meaning, that's the female version of Abdullah. You say ammatullah, right? Type. For amma, female slave, then, of course, she would have to be a believing female slave. Not a woman of the book or any other than that. So that's the second condition that Allah mentioned in this ayah. He says, min fatayatikumul mu'minat. From the believing woman, the slave that she's a believing, also likewise female. Then Allah Ta'ala mentions the last part of the ayah where He says, marry them by the permission of their families and give them their wages of what is good and what is of gentleness and kindness, of course. He says, muhsanatin, meaning keeping their private parts chaste, not in a manner that is what? Musafihat. Not in a manner that is abominable, meaning from fornication or adultery, what have you, and not taking them as boyfriend or girlfriend. It says in the ayah, right? So then it goes on to say, and if they're chaste, and you gave them, and if they have now committed some type, and if they're married, and they committed an act which is abominable, the private part, then it's upon them half of what is upon the believing women who are free, basically, of punishment, meaning of a type of what they call capital punishment that be established upon a what? A regular female. The female slave will only get a half of that. Is it clear what I'm saying so far? But listen to the last part of the ayah. He said, ذَلِكَ لِمَنْ خَشِيَ لَعْنَةَ مِنْكُمْ. So the last condition it says, that is for those who fear for themselves of falling into something impermissible or some type of what? Difficulty. So just to sum it up, and we'll stop here. So number one, Allah made conditions upon the man. If he wanted to marry a believing what? Slave woman, 3 conditions is upon him. That he cannot pay the dowry for a woman that's what? Free to liberated. He doesn't have the financial sustenance or whatever. Secondly, that the amma has to be a what? A believing. Thirdly, that he also fears some type of anat. Anat meaning that some type of difficulty or some type of fear of falling into what? Some type of something that's displeasing to Allah or what have you. So just to say, what's the strongest opinion upon what we're discussing now? Does she have the choice or not? Just to sum it up, make it concise, just to save time. Like we said, the affair was in our books right now is discussing that Mughith was a slave, right? Let's change it. Let's just say he was free. What would be the hukum? Does she have the choice or not now? If she was free under a man if she became freed and married under a man that was free, she now is at the same level of him. Does she have the choice now or not? I'll say it again. Listen to the question. We talked about what happened with Buloogh and Mughith, right? We said when she became higher than him, she had the choice now to either stay or what? To leave. Now let's get the man now to get to the same level. She's at the same exact level now. So now everything is going back to what's normally what we're accustomed to. Once she's now at the same level of a husband, of course, now the ahkam, or what is a regular marriage, takes place. Does she have the choice now or not? Can she say now, well, I'm free now? Exactly. Now we say it's changed. The hukum is changed. Why? Because she's at the same level. She can't say now, well, I'm liberated. And you say, well, I want to stay with you now. Now we say that no. Due to the fact that you and your husband's at the same level, here you can't use that as a justification to leave or use that in a way of choice to leave or depart from the marriage. If it's something different, that's something different. I'm talking about outside some other affair, mainly abuse or not being taken care of. That's something different. We're not talking about that. That's justifiable too. He said, well, he doesn't take care of me, or he's not fulfilling his obligations or his duties or whatever. The other type of different conditions that we mentioned in kafa'ah. We're not talking about that. We're talking about what happened with Mughith and Buloogh. where she wanted to say that I'm freed. I'm at a higher level now. I don't want to be with him no more. Can she use that excuse for a man that's free? Can she or not, sisters? No. That's the answer. That's the strongest opinion. Is it clear what I'm saying now? So that's the strongest opinion. So the hukum changed when they became at the same level. But when he was under her a bit because of him being an abd, then she became and had the what? The choice and alternative. Because she became higher level than him. But now he's raised to the level of her being now, she's free and he's free. Now she can't use that as a choice to want to what? To annul the marriage contract. Is it clear what I'm saying? Sisters are quiet. No, it's not a custom. This is something that's established in the Sharia. If there was a time of war, and there were slaves, this would take place. No, I didn't. No, I'm saying, for example, I'm giving some extra benefit and extra clarification. This is just something, let's just say, didn't I say that, everyone? Didn't I say that? I said, let's just say that now she married a man that was freed and liberated. Now we want to give some details on different scenarios. Because you can't just, when you're teaching, you can't just give one scenario. There's other scenarios that all plays and connects with the same hukum. Some of it can what? Some of it can be what we established, and some of it can go against it. That's why you have to give different examples. So that's why I just stick to one example. I gave another example that might go against what we just discussed, to see whether or not everyone is thinking and using their brains, to get inside to make sure their brains is thinking. Everybody is focused. That's the reason why I threw that in there. I just said, let's just say that Mughith was free. Does that change the hukum or not? We just said what, everyone? It does. I just said that, didn't I? I just said, I'll say it. I just said that if it's something else that has nothing to do with what we're talking about now, whereas they are two slaves, when she was a slave, he was a slave. When she became liberated and freed, she cannot use that particular state of affair to leave the marriage. But if it's something connected with another affair, then that's something different. That's what I said. For example, let's just say, now I got to break this down. Let's just say he's beating her up. Let's just say he's not taking care of her. Let's just say he's ignoring his obligations as a husband. Yes, those are justifiable reasons to ask for her to what? To leave. But that's not what's talking about right now in the book. What we're discussing is the fact that she utilized the fact she was freed in order to leave him. That's what we're discussing. That's the situation at hand. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? That's what I'm speaking about. So that in this regard, she cannot utilize that. To say that, well, I'm freed. He could say, well, I'm freed. We're at the same level. What you talking about? We can't use that as a way to say, I want the choice to leave. But if let's just, for example, she just say, I don't love him, or let's just say, for example, he's not taking care of his obligation, or he's a person that's committing fisq, or he's not praying, or he's changed his religion, that's something different. That's something she can, of course, by all means, that's a choice. She can utilize to say, I don't want to be with him no more. But as far as in the story of Barira and Mughith, she cannot use that. To say that now I'm liberated. You're still a slave. No, the man says what? I'm free too. We're at the same level. So that is not a reason for her to say that what? I'm out. But if she said, for example, he's beating her up, or he's not taking care of his obligations, or he changed his religion, or he fell into kufr, or he fell into leaving off the salat, then by all means she has another choice. That's due to something else, not related to what we're discussing now. Is it clear? Jay, so we'll stop here, inshallah. Any other questions about the lesson? Tafadal. No, I have a brother here who wanted to say something. Tafadal. Yeah. Disconnected to the lesson. Tafadal. Mm-hmm. No. That has nothing to do with one person getting incarcerated is not a slave. The ahkam of slave only takes place when there's a war, a legislated war. When there's a legislated war, legislated, not an innovated war. Legislated war like the Khawarij, what they doing with ISIS, that's an innovated war. We're talking about legislated. A legislated war, then of course we know they take captives, they take prisoners or what have you. Then those are the ahkam of riq, of slavery will take place. That's when that takes place, when war breaks out. But then right now there's no legislated jihad, so nobody can say, I have a concubine or I have a slave. Nobody can say that. Nobody can say, and for example in Philly, I heard people say that they had a sister that wrote up a contract saying she's a concubine. I'm saying,